The show is on. Start your engines.
Hello everybody and welcome to the second event within the FIA ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. Tonight we are going to be at a virtual Nürburgring. Not only do we have two great races in prospect, but also we're looking at a bigger entry than we had just a fortnight ago. We have a new driver, that is Stephan Kirsch, and with his Scania he joins the grid as well for the two races that we have coming up. Usual format, Super Pole, that determines the grid for race 1. And then you have the results of that with that semi-reverse grid, the top 8, of course, sorting out the grid for race 2. Two really good, really interesting races at the Hungaroring, first time out, and two different winners. So we didn't have anything like that domination that we had last year from Norbert Kish. Yep, he did win one of the races, and he got fastest lap in both, and he got pole position in Super Pole, but he couldn't make his way through the traffic in that second race. It was Jose Villa who was the winner. And the young Spanish driver, new to the championship, but an experienced sim racer, proving that he's got really good pace. And he's going to be one to watch as well over the course of the two Nürburgring races. As also is going to be another of the Iberians that have joined the series, Manuel Alvarez. He was third, if you remember, in the first race from the Hungaroring. So Alvarez is another who I think is going to be very rapid indeed around the Nürburgring short circuit. That means they've got the Mercedes Arena, and then as soon as you get back on the power, you're really hard on the brakes again because you've got that little hairpin that loops you round just before you thread your way through the S's, which will include the Bilstein curve, then the build through the Ad Van Bogen up towards the chicane, and then towards the old Coca-Cola curve, as was that last corner of the lap. So it is going to be a fascinating brace of races as ever. Is it going to be Norbert Kish who is the man to beat? Well, let's find out, because we will have the Super Pole contest underway, the trucks out on track, and for the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge for 2021, the races are 25 minutes plus 1 lap, but that 25 minutes includes, of course, the pace lap. 12 corners to this 3.6 kilometre long circuit. Track temperature 30 degrees. There's hardly any wind whatsoever. And as you can see, the drivers now making their way out on track, ready for this Super Pole session. Well, we had plenty of drama from the drivers at the Hungaroring, and you can expect more of the same really here as well. Norbert Kish, of course, as a European champion, tops the entry. He was the European champion in 14, in 15. In the limited races we got in last year, he was the 2020 champion. But of course, with 10 victories, he was the digital champion last year. And he remains very much the benchmark driver because, of course, his background is really in sim racing before he came into real-world truck racing. There is number one then, Norbert Kish, who is the fastest so far at 1 minute 50.340. Norbert Kish for the Revesh TRT squad with the MAN. It was a team put together for last year, and as the clock ticks on down through Super Pole, it is him at the moment who is the fastest. From Lucas Hahn in number 22, the son of Jochen Hahn, and of course a third generation truck racer. His grandfather, the late Konrad Hahn, of course very, very successful, and it was here on this circuit layout at the 2019 German Truck Grand Prix, the ADAC Truck Grand Prix, that Lucas made his debut. There he is, second in the times at the moment, 3/10 or so down on Norbert Kish. We did see Lucas Hahn on occasions last year within the FIA ETRC Digital Championship. But let's see what he can do here with the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge for 2021. A bit more experience of real world and sim racing now under his belt. Lucas Hahn heads up towards the timing line. And as he goes through, is that going to be a lap from him? But it is still Norbert Kish who is the man who hangs on to the top slot. And there is the driver that is third, Manuel Alvarez, going through the Mercedes arena. And of course, appropriate that. He's a Mercedes-Benz driver. Hangs out the tail as we get into the last 5 minutes now of the qualifying session. And he works his way up through the Mercedes arena. Manuel Alvarez then looking to see whether he can put himself on the front row of the grid. Always important, of course, to be out of stride if you can through that Mercedes arena on the opening lap. One way of doing so is to get yourself as far up the grid as possible. So Alvarez goes there through the hairpin. So you see what I mean about that limited amount of straight you get from the exit of the Mercedes arena into the head itself. Sascha Lentz currently fourth fastest. Now, Sascha, in theory, ought to be a little bit higher up the order than that because he was a race winner within the Digital Championship last year. Got 13 podiums, fourth in the real world ETRC last year, and on virtual home soil. Sascha Lentz for the SL team should, as I say, really be up there. The SL Truck Sport entry, it's another of the many MANs on the grid. He's also found himself some traffic, hasn't he? Because there is Jonathan Andre, and then also Marco Klingelhofer just up the road ahead. Andre is 6th, and Klingelhofer is currently to be found 13th. Now, having said that we had a bigger entry, we've lost one, and I fear actually it is Stephan Kirsch who has not been able to join the server. So it looks as though the one new driver hasn't actually made it into Superpole after all, which is a bit of a shame, but we hope that he will be out in 2 weeks' time at Le Mans. Marco Klingelhofer in that kind of Rothmans liveried Iveco, getting out of the way of a charging Sascha Lentz, who is on the second row of the grid, and he wants to be on the front row if he can do it. The margin has just stretched between Kish and Hahn. To the pits goes Klingelhofer in the background. At the foot of the times is Ferry van Drunen, the Dutch driver with Scania. Here is Lentz up towards the line. Still 3 more minutes of this session to go. But it is Kish and Hahn on the front row of the grid for the moment. Then you've got Alvarez and Lentz on row 2. And race 2 winner Jose Villa and Jonathan Andre in their 2 yellow perils lock out the third row of the grid. The fourth row currently is Bjorn Tiehaus, 51, looking strong. And Theo Calve with the sole Freightliner from the Bagheera Racing squad within the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. He's just a little bit off the pace, like we saw, in fairness, at the Hungaroring. But Theo, a very quick driver here. That he came into racing after his baccalaureate exams back in, 2019, and is hunting down, what's he got to find now? 2 tenths to get himself up past Bjorn Tiehaus, and 3 tenths would put him a row further up the grid. That's Lentz at the hairpin. Jonathan Andre still hustling on there. 99 goes through Jose Villa, so you've got 6th, 5th, 4th in the times in order on track there. Andre, Villa, and then Lentz. They're coming up towards the end of the qualifying session. Now, through goes Sascha Lentz. That's suggesting that getting out of the session is Jose Villa. I can't imagine he's going to be able to squeeze another flying lap out of this. We've also had a change for not being last, if you like, because Ferry van Drunen has gone ahead of the French driver, Lucas Rival. But it does look as though it is going to be Norbert Kish for yet another pole position here. Sascha Lentz goes for the pit lane. So that's his work done. And Kish is still out there, but going slowly. Lentz, we know, is pitted. 5th in the times currently is Jose Villa. 6th in the times is Jonathan Andre. And then behind that, got Bjorn Tiehaus and Theo Calve, still 8th. Still out there, still pressing on, but you'll see from that graphic with the little P next to the names, more and more of the drivers now heading for the pit road and the end of the session. Antonio Albafetti is probably 9th, quite a long way back for him. And then you've got Henry Tiehaus rounding out the top 10. Through goes Manuel Alvarez, so he's still sitting on, and he might yet be able to improve the long shot, but it is possible. So Alvarez third we're looking at, and he's got pretty much the road to himself right now, hasn't he? Because most have gone for the pit lane, called it a session, done their work in this Super Pole. We were told by Norbert Kish after the first race in the Hungaroring how more realistic the platform, the Assetto Corsa platform, is this year with the weight of the truck and therefore the life that you can get out of the tyres. Flag is out, session's at an end, and to the pit lane comes Alvarez, joining those that are already in. So Norbert Kish takes pole position yet again. So that's 2 out of 2 in Super Pole for Norby. There is Jose Villa, who is now up to 4th. So who has that pushed down the order? It is Sascha Lentz, who has been put to the very back of the grid. Now that makes me think that he has copped a penalty, which I'll try and get to the bottom of. But Sascha Lentz then having seemingly had his times disallowed. They'll try and get to the bottom of that. Haven't had any information from race control that it's been a drama for Sascha Lentz. What they have confirmed is that Stephan Kirsch may not join today's race because of a power breakdown. But Super Pole at an end. But yes, certainly something has happened for Lentz. But I'm afraid they put him to the back of the grid. Right, well, this is going to make very interesting indeed, isn't it? Sascha Lentz, who was 4th fastest, now to the very back of the grid. Now, it's either a track limits offence or it's overspeeding. The regulations for the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge, very strictly policed indeed. Rolf Werner, the clerk of the course, will be making sure that everything is strictly adhered to. Sascha Lentz, somewhere along the line, has transgressed. We'll find out why, hopefully, but he's at the back of the grid. Well, that is going to make his work really tough. And perhaps straight away, now that the message will be communicated to him, he has to start planning, really, for race 2. So the target here is going to be to get into the top 8 and then see what he can do on that semi-reverse grid for the second race. Norbert Kish then for pole position. Lucas Hahn will be second on the grid. And then you've got the Iberians, Manuel Alvarez and Jose Villa, lining up on the second row of the grid. So Sascha Lentz starting last. He should be able to, on pure pace, gain some places, but you've got to get through the traffic, and that is not going to be easy. No question about it. So the drivers now will have time to perhaps just discuss any potential dramas with race control. Of course, they have TeamSpeak to speak to the officials. Skype for the drivers has to be open so that the race control team can make sure that who is meant to be driving the rig is driving the rig, and then they will get themselves set ready for race 1 here at the Nürburgring. Now let's just remind ourselves of the stars of the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. Norbert Kish comes here as the championship leader, and the Hungarian for the Reves TRT squad, ex-sim racer, Opel Astra Cup racer, Hungarian Clio champion, double Hungarian Seat champion, Suzuki Swift champion, and double European truck racing champion before winning the limited series last year and also winning the ETRC Digital Championship that we had last year. Norbert Kish then is going to start on pole position, and this really is the driver they have all got to beat. Norbert Kish in fine form as ever. He knows exactly what he's doing in terms of sim racing. He knows exactly what he's doing in terms of real-world truck racing. And so Norbert Kish, the man to beat. He is the benchmark driver as we go into the first of our 2 races here at the Nürburgring. Antonio Albacete is another of the front runners that we have. He is learning all the time about digital racing, sim racing, European champion in 05, in 06 and in 2010, runner-up in 2019, got himself on the podium in the ETRC Digital Series at Le Mans last year, but Antonio Albacete bit by bit by bit works his way forward and the Spanish driver who began in Formula Ford 1600 moved into Formula 3 to Formula 3000 before going in one direction to touring cars and racing for Opel and BMW and Alfa Romeo, and then in another direction at the end of the 90s into truck racing. He has been a mainstay of truck racing for over 2 decades and is a great ambassador for the sport, be it real or virtual. Now, this is Stephan Kirsch, who we fear is going to be a non-starter, but Kirsch new to the championship and new to pretty much as well to racing. He's a master in metalwork and owns, or is the co-owner, a managing director of an earth-moving company. Always liked motorsport, did a bit of off-roading in his youth. Family members were mechanics for truck teams at Nürburgring, so he used to go and watch the races, and then at the end of 2019 bought a truck. It came from Holland, and he did a few races in 2020 at the Lausitzring and also at Zolder. So under the banner of the Dutch truck racing team, the Scania of the German driver, Stephan Kirsch. As I say, it's a power failure that seems to have prevented him from joining the action tonight. But let's see if they can get things back up and running. He might be allowed in. If not, he'll be on track with us at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time. Manuel Alvarez was one of the real stars of the Hungaroring, where he came away with a third and a second. Alvarez only started racing in trucks last year. He's also raced Renault Clios, and it was an incident in the Clio Cup that ended up with him having a bit of an injury and not being able to finish the season. We've seen him in the Spanish Truck Racing Championship and now turning his attention to the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. Manuel Alvarez is certainly, I think, going to be one of those drivers that we get used to seeing up at the pointy end of the grid, and he will be, I'm sure, moving through from row 2 of the grid when we go racing in a few minutes' time. Now, what about Lucas Rival? He's another of the newcomers this year, the man from Albi, Lucas Rival. He started in endurance saloon car racing and then drove in the French Championship back last year. Best race result being a 5th. And he is a driver that we perhaps didn't really see the best of at the Hungaroring races, but he will be looking to make a step forward this evening. Just to finish off the story of Stephan Kirsch, I understand that power has been restored and the plan is that he will take part in the races, obviously off the back of the grid. Now, the Tiehouse brothers are here, of course, as ever. Henry will drive number 15, the Team EK truck race Scania. And Henry Tiehouse is going to be the lower placed of the two on the grid. But actually, they are, of course, not that far apart. They are separated by only Theo Calve and Antonio Albafetti. So they're on the adjacent rows. And Henry Tiehouse, the less experienced of the two. He's done a little bit of British Truck Racing Association racing. He's done a few European outings, but perhaps not really as many as Bjorn Tiehouse has. Another newcomer for this year is Marco Goldhofer. His father, a truck driver, and Marco, an ex-kart racer, always wanted to go truck racing. He founded the Maddox team, and then, of course, had that rather frustrating 2020 with so much of the racing being shelved. But he did have some sim experience, and the Iveco truck is going to start from the penultimate full row of the grid and will be a man certainly to keep an eye to, I think, Marco Klingelhofer, as the experience starts to build. He gets better and better all the time. Now, what about Theo Calve? His father, a truck racing champion and organiser and broadcaster, Fabien Calve, and Theo, ex-motocrosser, began in the French Championship at Nogaro back in 2017. He's won the French Junior Championship. He's raced in the European Series and was a double winner in the Digital Championship last year. He had a win at Harama, but also here, in fact, at the Nürburgring. So let's see what he can do. Starting 7th then, going into race 1. But Theo Calve in the Freightliner, now run under the banner of Bagheera Zero Mileage Racing. And Theo Calvé certainly has the pace. He's got the experience. So let's see what he can do. The racecraft should be there. But of course, Hungaroring was a disappointment. The first race, he lost internet connection and that spat him out. So he's on the back foot as far as the championship is concerned, because he comes here 9th with only really 3 points to his name garnered from that second race. Now, what about Lucas Hahn? Because as we work our way through the drivers, Lucas Hahn is another who, as we said during Superpole, ought to be up near the front of the grid. Debuted in 2019 here at the Nürburgring in the Mittelrhein Cup races. In other words, the Dutch BTRA, German all-comers races that make up a key part of that huge event run by the ADAC. And Lucas Hahn, third-generation truck racer, is, of course, following in the footsteps of his dad, Jochen, innumerable European champion, grandfather Conrad as well, with the Hahn Racing Iveco, and he is 4th in the championship coming into this evening. Last year he only did selected races in the Digital Challenge and therefore got 11th, but I reckon he's going to be a race winner before long, and it could well be here at the Nürburgring. Another of the newcomers that we have this year is Pedro Marco, who's raced in the past in both the French and Spanish championships. Went well at Nogaro in the French series last year. He has raced in the European Championship as well, of course, on home soil really at Jarama. But the Murcia Truck Racing MAN is the rear of the grid, and in an Iberian fight with Ivan Rodriguez, who's going to line up just one spot behind him on the grid. He's also going to line up behind Antonio Albacete as well. And the grid all shuffled because of this man, Sasha Lentz. So he has been put to the back of the grid. As I say, we'll try and get to the bottom of why, but he is at the rear of grid. And let us see what progress he can make. So, Sasha Lentz, one to watch. He's a race winner. In the real world, he is, as we've known, a race winner in the European series before now. So let's see what he can do over the first 25-minute race here. Now, number 51 is the other of the Tyhouse brothers. This is Björn Tyhouse, and he is going to, having gained one place on the grid, put himself on the outside of third row. So he is to be another driver worth keeping an eye to. And the Tyhouse brothers competitive, and let's see what progress can be made. Moving through the entry, 66, Jonathan Andre. Now, Jonathan gains a place on the grid also. That puts him onto the inside of the third row. So he's there or thereabouts, benefiting from the problems of Sasha Lentz. So Jonathan Andre, French team manager, of course, for the Lion Truck Racing squad. He took over from Anthony Janiette last year and took 7 podiums. He's another driver, I think, that should make a bit of progress and should be up near the front. 81 is another newcomer for the year. That's Ferry van Drunen, and the Dutch driver, a regular in Dutch events, has traded his rather elderly bonneted Scania for the cab-over version. His father, Pete, used to race. His brother Tim has raced, and the Drunen Truck Racing Scania is going to go from the penultimate row of the grid. 94 is Ivan Rodriguez, whose father was the president of the VTR team for a decade. And then the WXO team, he only started racing in 2019, but has had a pole at Le Mans and a lot of sim racing experience, and that could be crucial. '99 is, of course, a driver we saw winning last time out, Jose Villa. His father raced in the Spanish Championship as well as in touring cars, and Jose himself was a title winner in Spain back in 2019 and a race winner in the Digital Challenge just 2 weeks ago. And there is the pace truck, which is the Iveco. That's going to lead them around on that pace lap. And we are not far now from heading to the grid in anticipation of race 1 here at the Nürburgring. It's going to be elbows out for some. And as we've seen, we've got Sascha Lentz then having had his time disallowed, having to carve his way up through the order. So we are not far off the drivers all joining the race server. Of course, before the race itself, we will have the lap from the official truck, the Ford F-Max, and we are expecting Stephan Kirsch to be on the grid. So he should start alongside Sascha Lentz at the rear as we get set then for our first of the 2 races here at the Nürburgring. The Iveco pace truck is going to lead them around. That opening lap, of course, behind the pace truck, even though it is the formation lap, the rolling start lap, that counts within the 25 minutes. But of course, we have a lap put on at the end. So it's 25 minutes plus a lap. Effectively, therefore, it's 25 racing minutes until you get to the checkered flag. Looking forward to this hugely now with a good, interesting grid. Norbert Kish, I don't think he's going to have it all his own way. Certainly with Hahn, Alvarez, Villa, Andre, all up there at the front of the grid with him. So let's find out, because the drivers are joining the server. Won't be long now before we can go racing this 3.6 kilometre long short version of the Nürburgring Grand Prix track. And the drivers then starting to get themselves prepared. 25 minutes plus 1 lap. What progress can Lentz make, having lost that time earlier? Is he going to get himself into the top 8? That must be the benchmark for him now, to see whether he can, admittedly, he'll have to give away points in the first race, but can gain them back out of race 2. We'll also try and double check exactly why he has been put to the back of the grid, and therefore what it was that he did wrong. However, he will be, I'm sure, all guns blazing, ready to come through. Other drivers to keep an eye on. What about Antonio Albacete? He starts in mid-grid, and Albacete, we know he's quick. We know he gets better and better all the time in sim racing, so he could be a man to keep an eye on as well. What about Tio Calve? Winner here last year, a little bit off the pace in qualifying, but again, the championship has moved up a level, hasn't it, this year? It's got even more competitive than we had last year, so perhaps that's gone against him slightly now, that he is having to find a bit more pace, really, and with more competition against him. That is perhaps just starting to mean that 1 or 2 drivers that had the pace last year need to do a little bit more practice and need to find a bit more pace ready for season 2. We're going to have a slight delay, about 3 minutes or so, I understand, before we can get the race underway. So as soon as possible, we'll go to the grid. The drivers all joining the server, and then we will be in business. Jonathan Andre, I think, could be a man to watch as well. Manuel Alvarez and Jose Villa, though, those 2 Spanish drivers that were so impressive at the Hungaroring, they're going to start together on the 2nd row of the grid. If they keep out of trouble through the Mercedes arena, they very definitely indeed could be up there fighting for honours in this first 25-minute race. So, as I say, drivers are joining the server. A little bit of a delay before we go racing, but we're not far away now, and it won't be long, therefore, before the circuit is given over to the official truck of the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge, and that means that the Ford F-Max is ready for its lap.
The show is on. Start your engines.
So there is the grid. Everybody now starting to get themselves ready for race one, and just looking down that grid to make... now, interestingly, Sasha Lentz has been put back to fourth. So, having talked about him being at the back of the grid, because that timing graphic had put into the very foot of the times, he, by the look of things, has been allowed back to fourth on the grid. So, scrap what I was saying about Sasha Lentz having to go from the back. For whatever reason, he lost his time. It looks like he's been given back. It could have been a glitch somewhere in the system, of course, but Sasha Lentz is now back to where he should be, and that's going to make life easier for him. It's going to make life perhaps not quite so interesting for us, but it's going to be a blessed relief, certainly, for Sasha Lentz as we get set to go racing them. Starting off pole position with Hahn lining up with him at the front of the grid. Rolf Werner, as the clerk of the course gets set, you'll see the lights change, and that will signify that we can get things rolling as the trucks now set off. Now Sasha Lentz suddenly disappears from the server, does he not? Look, because the SL Truck Sport rig disappears from the grid. Everybody now gets away. There is Lentz in the pits. There's another one, I think, in the pits as well. Who is that is missing from the grid? So let's try and work this one out as they get away. Lentz is in the pits, may not start, let's see. And there is one other in the pits by the look of it. So Kish is there, Hahn is there. We've got Alvarez. We have, hopefully, Jonathan Andre as they work their way through the Mercedes arena now. There, all the yellow perils. Calvé is there, Bjorn Tiehaus is there, Henry Tiehaus is there, Alberthetti is there. So looking for white trucks that might be missing from the grid as they file their way now through the Mercedes arena. We'll try and keep an eye to the back of the grid. Could be Stephan Kirsch, of course, that's the other one starting from the pit lane as a driver that missed the opportunity to do that qualifying session. So Kish versus Hahn, game on between those two. And of course, it's going to be absolutely vital to get a good, clean run through the Mercedes arena. So there they are, making their way down to the hairpin. Norbert Kish on the inside line, Lucas Hahn on the out. Second row of the grid then is just now Alvarez with Sasha Lentz no longer there. The third row is Villa and Andre. Then you've got Bjorn Tiehaus lining up alongside Theo Calvé on row 4. Alberthetti is there on the fifth row of the grid. And yeah, I think the other one is Stephan Kirsch in the pit lane. I think pretty much everybody else has been accounted for. Alberthetti on row 5 with Henry Tiehaus. Then Pedro Marco and Ivan Rodriguez start on the 6th row. The 7th row is Marco Klingelhofer and Ferry van Drunen. The 8th row then is on his own, Lucas Rival, with those two pit lane starters. Right, Norbert Kish on pole position. It's up to him really to control the start once we loop out of the right-hander of turn 16. But Lucas Hahn is going to have so good on the brakes. He's also going to have to be on his toes, because if he can do the hard yards in a straight line and try and either get round the outside of Kish or at least stay on the inside for turns 2 and 3 through the arena, he's in with a chance, no question about it. So we're set to go racing then. The pace truck will go for the pit lane. The race rigs turn their way out of the chicane then now up towards the line. And we are set, ready to go racing then. There is the Iveco pace truck down the pit road in front of a virtual Dorint. And up towards the timing line, Norbert Kish then on pole position. But can Lucas Hahn get ahead of him on the run down towards turn 1? It's absolutely crucial that he stays at least alongside him. They are toe-to-toe. The lights will change now. The race gets underway. And Hahn tries to blast away as they go down towards the first corner. Kish on the inside line. There's drama in the background that I'm afraid has put a couple into the barriers, one of which could have been Bjorn Tiehaus, but it's Kish, the race leader. Calvé's on the grass on the inside. We've lost one on the outside, which I think was Villa. Calvé slides up the inside and goes straight on. Hahn just avoided all of that, but Norbert Kish comes out in front. So drama on the run to the Mercedes arena, drama from the start, and it means then that it's number 1, Norbert Kish in the lead of the race. Lucas Hahn kept out of trouble somehow, and he runs second. turn their way up through the Mercedes arena. It is a red flag because of all of that carnage. So a red flag is being shown, and Norbert Kish and all the other drivers will disconnect and reconnect, and we'll start again. So across the road went, I think it was possibly Henry Tiehouse. It got caught up with Bjorn. And then we had this with Jose Villa off the road on the outside, Calvé up the inside. I mean, had that been a real world drama, that could have been Armageddon down at the first corner. Calvé scrabbled through, but Rolf Werner says, oh, enough is enough. So we'll stop it, we'll go again and try and get the message across to the drivers to just behave. So racing drivers are racing drivers. It doesn't matter what you do with them. That competitive instinct is there. So we'll try again. Grid will be formed. We'll see if we've got any gaps upon it, and then we'll go racing. So the clerk of the course will once again instill that message that you can't win the race at the first corner maybe, but you can certainly lose it, and just try and improve those driving standards. We did have it a number of times last year, but it was mainly in the second race. Well, 4 minutes away we are from the restart, I understand, which just gives the drivers chance to listen to the words of wisdom of Rolf Werner as the clerk of the course. Rare that we have a red in race one, but perhaps it does show the importance of trying to gain track position down towards the Mercedes arena and therefore not get caught up in the traffic. Well, we had drama off the line as people tried to switch one side and then the other, and then Theo Calvé with that huge moment up the inside, triggering more drama going down into the braking area. So we'll try again. 25 minutes plus a lap. Take two. And Norbert Kish will have to do it all over again, just like Lucas Hahn will try to go around the outside of him. He had slotted in behind in that second place, but of course he was slightly impeded by the Freightliner cutting across his bows as Theo Calvé got it all wrong, under braking, going down towards the Mercedes arena. Race officials then now will get the drivers back onto the server. We will be good to go again very shortly. And the Nürburgring short Grand Prix circuit with not only the Mercedes arena, but the hairpin and to a lesser degree, perhaps the chicane, as those 3 pinch points around the lap will welcome the drivers back on track very shortly indeed. Of course, the real world truck Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, the ADAC truck Grand Prix, the longest established of all the European Truck Racing Championship events, tracing its origins way back to the 1980s, and it is always a venue and an event with a special atmosphere planned for the third weekend of July this year. And of course it's just the racing, it's the go stop competition here. Should we do one of those virtually next time? We've also over the years had the concerts at the ADAC Truck Grand Prix that are a major feature, the show and shine, and also the three-wheel motorbikes as well. So massive event, huge crowds, and it can't return to the calendar soon enough. So there is the grid, and the Iveco Pace Truck is set ready to lead them around once more. Sascha Lentz has been put, I noticed, back to 4th on the grid, but he may, of course, be moved from there, depending on what race officials determined to do when we are good to go. And the restart we are a minute away from being able to enjoy. So the drivers are set, ready to go. Race control, I think, are just about ready. Everybody has been brought back to the server. So race control say, please leave, and then rejoin, put into the pit lane when we had that original start. So we'll see what happens next as the rigs get ready to go. And Stephan Kirsch is the other one as well that we need to keep an eye to and see what progress he can make up from the rear of the grid. So the drivers into this last minute. Also understand that there was a bit of contact somewhere along the line between Jonathan Andre and Marco Goldhofer. That, I think, came on the opening lap as well. As the lights change, and now everybody rumbles away with, this time around, Sascha Lentz going from 4th on the grid. So he is there, and everybody else then rumbles away behind, down towards the Mercedes arena. And there going through is Lucas Rival, and there at the back is Stephan Kirsch. So this time, everybody will be on the grid, ready to go. So down towards the ladies' arena, and there you can see the Iveco pace truck turning its way through that tight right, and then the drivers onto the power, making the run around the arena. Now 51, Bjorn Tyhouse, and 23, Antonio Albafetti, I understand, are being looked at for causing a collision during the original start. So an investigation for number 51, Bjorn Tyhouse, and Antonio Albafetti, as we get this formation lap then underway. So that news from race control, as Kish and Hahn are set to battle. And Sasha Lentz, in a sense, given a get-out-of-jail-free card with that red flag, because there he is on the second row of the grid. Through the hairpin, they turn. And Theo Calve starting on that fourth row, another driver given, if you like, a second bite of the cherry here, and he will be oh so determined not on under braking going down to the Mercedes arena like he did. Kish leading, not getting away though from Lucas Hahn, who is there behind him in second place as they accelerate now out of the hairpin for the first time of asking. Alvarez chasing after the opposition. The first corner of the first lap is under investigation, race control tells us, but right now it is Norbert Kish leading the way. Hahn runs second, third is Alvarez. Bit of a gap opening up before you've got Lentz going through in fourth place. He stay with Kish. Can he do anything about the race leader? What about Calve? He does, in fairness, look as though he's got the speed now to not only stay with Jose Villa, but maybe even start a challenge towards the chicane. Into the left and the right they go for the first time. Sasha Lentz, in contrast, is a little bit busy defending, and that perhaps is costing him time against the race leaders. And 16 they come. Kish goes through the shot. Lentz a little bit wider there, perhaps missing the apex, and that's going to give Villa a chance to attack as they come onto the pit straight. Albafetti through further back. The leaders go by, heading then now down towards the right-hander into the Mercedes arena. So at the end of lap one, Kish leads, Hahn second. Alvarez goes through in third place, but there's a real battle pack raging on now for fourth position, because you've got Lentz just ahead of Villa, ahead of Calve. There they are, and Lentz coming under real attack now. So Norbert Kish it is, leading the way, margin 9/10 of a second, give or take, at the end of that first proper racing lap, but of course it's 2 in the book, as there is number 30, Sasha Lentz, who powers his way now down towards the hairpin, still keeping at bay Jose Villa. Now Calve's fallen off the back ever so slightly, hasn't he, in 6th place. Andre runs 7th, Bjorn Tyhouse is 8th, Albafetti 9th, Ivan Rodriguez is 10th, and Stephan Kirsch, new, is up into 15th place, so making good progress here. Number 94, Ivan Rodriguez, warned about track limit abuse already, as Lentz turns his way now up through the Bilstein curve. Hangs the back out. Of course, that's about in real-world racing, where quite often you find the little marker cones on the outside, and if you dislodge them too often, then track limit penalties can come your way. But Lentz doing his best to stay in touch with Alvarez. For the moment, we've got the same top 3 in race 1 here as we did at the Hungaroring. Kish ahead of Hahn, ahead of Alvarez, and Norbert Kish looking to try to build that lead then as the trucks turn their way once again out of the chicane and up now through turn 16. Up towards the line they will come. Another lap book. Kish goes through then. It is the Revesh TRT MAM that leads the way. And Norby, 10 times a winner last year, 1 victory to his name already this season. Thunders past the pits. Now what about Hahn behind him then? At the end of 2 laps, the gap was 9/10 to the eye. It looks like it's come down a fraction. It has, it's half a second. So Lucas Hahn closing right up under braking. Third in turn, Alvarez perhaps now just dropping back a little bit into the clutches of their the 4th, 5th, 6th train. Lentz taking Villa with him. Calve is falling off the back ever so slightly, and all 16 are still battling. Stephan Kirsch looking as though he is becoming pretty adroit at all of this, as you see going through Bjorn Tyhouse. So we've got track limit warnings for the likes of Rodriguez, that's Pedro Goldhofer. And they're going through is 25, Pedro Marco in 12th. Now remember, in all of this, in the top 10. So we've got to get a bit of a wriggle on here, if at all possible. Goes now up through the sequence of corners that loop you from the Bilstein curve to the Ad Van Bogem. And Pedro Marco chasing after Lucas Rival, who in turn is on the back of Albacete. But right now it is Bjorn Teichhaus, who is 8th, and that of course is significant. He's looking for pole position for the second race. So points for the top 10, but 8th net pole position. 9th really is the worst place to be, because you miss out on that reverse grid, and of course you don't really score very many for 9th place, only 2 points. Norbert Kish though, looking oh so strong up front. He's on lap number 4 as he comes through, with Pedro Marco going by, sliding the rig out of the last corner, out of turn 16 he goes. So the Murcia Racing MAN goes by, chasing after the Spanish driver, fellow race leaders. The lead gap has crept up a smidge. It's up to 0.791 of a second over the timing line, down under braking, perhaps inevitably. So the Iveco, passing all of its signage, chases the MAN. Lucas Hahn goes after Norbert Kish towards the hairpin. One stay, 15.5 minutes and counting here. Hahn under braking tries to lose, but as Norbert Kish was telling us after the first Hungaroring race, you've got to look after the rubber these days, so you can't really afford to push quite so hard, and maybe that's what's affecting some of the drivers that are not yet being able to adapt quickly enough to the nuances, the tweaks within the platform. We've got a warning now to number 19, which is Marco Klingelhofer, for pushing. So race control, as ever, in ETRC Digital Racing Challenge events, being kept busy. Leaders go by. Alvarez then dropping off the back of that train just a little, isn't he now? Up towards the chicane, they come. Hahn doing his level, best to close, but right now it is still looking as though we're going to get another kiss here. Norbert Kish leads the way. Hahn second. Through goes Calvé, running in 6th place. Another of those that has lost out, really, Jonathan Andre. So he started 6th, but was to 7th. And what about Jose Villa? He's not really made progress, still 5th. So Kish leads Hahn, leads Alvarez. That was 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Lentz 4th, Villa 5th. So it's grid order, really, until you get to Calvé. He's the big winner out of that leading gaggle by stealing 2 places from where he'd qualified. The race leaders once more goes right up as they drop down through the approach to the Mercedes arena. But Alvarez, who perhaps in fairness to him does not know the Nürburgring as well, I can't imagine he's raced here in the real world. That might help, that knowledge of the circuit, whether it's real or sim. He's not being able to stay with the top 2. So Alvarez then drops back another length or so out of the Mercedes arena. But in fairness, Lentz is not catching, because he is still very busy keeping Jose Villa at bay. So Villa is on his tail. There is 99. That is Villa. Look up the road there. You've got the number 30 rig, the SL Truck Sport entry, in the hands of Sascha Lentz. So Villa, race 2 winner at the Hungaroring. What can he do here? It was a good start to the season for him. 5th in race 1. And that's exactly where he is right now. He still won from there, so it's doable. It's doable in race 2, that is for sure. Comes out of the Bilstein curve, goes after another of the second generation racers, Sascha Lentz. His father, a very experienced, very successful truck racer. But Norbert Kish, from cars to trucks, he did go back into car racing, Norby, for Hungary in the touring car element of the Motorsport Games at the back end of 2019 with an Alfa Romeo. He, in the MAN, leads the way, and last time around the margin was 9/10 over Lucas Hahn, and I just wonder whether it might be up even more or at the end of this neck. But you look there at Villa going into turn 16. He's heading up now towards the timing line. And the investigation of the opening lap of the race has been concluded, and no further action is what race control say. So it's all good. Battle continues. Down now they go towards the right-hander at the approach to the Mercedes arena. The rigs rumble their way through the left now of turns 2 into turn 3, with Lapri having already started. That was Marco Klingelhofer getting out of the way in number 19. So the Iveco being lapped already. That surprises me because Goldhofer was not the slowest in qualifying, that's for sure. But maybe he had a drama somewhere and that's what's cost him time. So Stephan Kirsch, who's really up against it in terms of hardly any track time whatsoever, he is now up into 14th place, having started last on the grid. There through his Villa, and he's looking a little bit more concerted now in his efforts to get on to terms with Sascha Lentz, isn't he? So that gap, that battle, 4th and 5th, it's starting to get ever more committed as far as the Spanish driver is concerned. The MAN of Jose Villa goes down towards the Van Bogen, up now towards the chicane. Your foot here nailed to the boards, but of course a racing truck governed to a maximum of 100 miles an hour. That built into the Assetto Corsa platform as well, as Calvé in the Freightliner goes through for the Bagheera Zero Mileage Racing team, third in the championship last year. There is then a hard charging Villa. He comes up towards the line and makes the run over the timing line. Is he close enough to Lentz to have a go? Well, he's close, but I don't think he's quite close enough to dive up the inside. Jose Villa, car racer, sim racer, truck racer, right on the back of Sascha Lentz. A little bit of understeer may be there from Villa as he brakes late and he brakes hard, turning into turn 1. Half a second between them as they go into Mercedes Arena this time around. 10 minutes plus that regulation lap and still to go. Big slide from Villa. So he's pressing on, there's no doubt about that. But is he doing himself any favours in all of that? Because what he's done now, seemingly, is himself some time. That means that Lentz looks a little bit safer. Turns his way out of the hand, back onto the power once again here. And Norbert Kish and Lucas Hahn both receiving a warning about track limits now. So the top two taking one liberty too many, thinks the clerk of the course, Rolf Fairness. So track limit warnings come for the two race leaders. Now this could get interesting, couldn't it, if they continue to overstep the mark? That could put Manuel Alvarez in the box seat. Lentz and Villa still battle on 4th and 5th. It's Calvé 6th. It is Jonathan Andre 7th. Bjorn Teichhaus is 8th and still heading, therefore, seemingly, for a good grid position going into the second race here at the Nürburgring. But of course, that could all change if anybody else is thrown around for what might be going on up the road ahead of him. Up towards the line goes Jose Villa. There are the race leaders through, and Norbert Kish this time looking a lot safer over Lucas Hahn than he was a couple of laps back. So the margin extending. Now last time actually it was 7/10, but this time 1.2 as they come over the line, so a big advantage gained. Got a good French fight going on here, look, because Calvé is being caught by Jonathan Andre, who in turn is the Dutch driver Bjorn Teichhaus with him. Bjorn running in Clemens Heckers, as you'll notice from the windscreen strip at the bottom there as he goes into the Mercedes Arena, but actually Bjorn Teichhaus giving a tough time to the Lion Truck Racing entry of Jonathan Andre. Why is it Lion Truck Racing? Because it's from Lyon, that team. And Andre trying to attack Calvé, but also trying to defend here from the Flying Dutchman behind him. So Bjorn Teichhaus goes through. Understand also that we've had a coming together during the course of the race between Stephan Kirsch and Ferry van Drunen, which possibly is why Kirsch is ahead of van Drunen now, but that might be looked at by race control as well in the fullness of time. Right now, though, Norbert Kish is the man that leads the way, and the margin 1.344 seconds, according to the official timing when they broke the beam. Now, of course, around the lap, there are different timing points. That's why the graphic changes with the gap as the rigs rumble around the Nürburgring. But right now, we're looking at the 6th, 7th, 8th battle. And of course, although 8th is good enough for pole for race 2 for Bjorn Teichhaus, he'd like, because he's a racer, to try and gain another position and gain some more points out of this if he can. Andre, in the meantime, is all over Calvé like a cheap suit. So what's going to happen here? 7 minutes are on the clock. Up they come. Now head towards the chicane. Calvé, left and right, he flicks through. There goes number 19 into the brake zone. That's the lap Marco Goldhofer, who is a lap down as we ride on board here. This is with Bjorn Teichhaus. Never ceases to amaze just how realistic it is in the sim world. Not only the graphics, but the noise as well. As he comes up, you've got the gear speed on the dash as he heads now down towards the Mercedes arena. There's that little kink. Then you have to go down through the gears hard on the brakes, and Jonathan Andre reels in Calvé there. Calvé's feeling the pressure, and Andre now has got the speed. It was that really good start from Calvé that propelled him up past his fellow countrymen, but now he is under attack, and because they're holding each other up, so Bjorn Teichhaus can come back at them, so he might yet gain a place. He's got to make a decision though. Do I want to start from pole, or do I want to gain another position? And if you went from, for example, 8th to 7th, he'd only get one more point. To be fair, I'm not entirely sure championship points are going to be uppermost in his mind. He might just be content to lag back and hang on as Andre almost gets himself up alongside Calvé, coming out of the hairpin. Here Calvé hangs on to position as they now into the S's. Towards the Belgian curve now, but Andre's got the run, makes the move to the inside line, does he? Calvé tries to cover him off, but Andre will be up alongside as Calvé rumbles up in the curve. Now you've got the bonneted Freightliner versus the cab over 66 Lion Truck Racing Team MAM, and Calvé is able to hang on in there. Up to the chicane they come. Andre now looks for the inside line. He's going to get a face full of Freightliner, I would suspect. Yes, he does, and Calvé then covers him off. They go through the chicane, and another track limit warning is coming, and that now is for Van Drunen. A little bit further back, of course, is Ferry Van Drunen down in 15th spot as Calvé comes into turn 16. Up towards the line now. And Andre, look, is delayed, and that brings 51 Bjorn Teichhaus into the mix. Under the BMW gantry they go. They covers off the inside line. Brake hard, turn in. And Andre thinks about it. There's gap is there on the inside just about, but he had to pull 6 wheels up over the curb. And that's actually compromised Andre on the exit of turn 1. So Bjorn Teichhaus is now still clambering all over the back of him. And Theo Calvé hangs on to position with 4.5 minutes to go, plus the regulation lap. This is back on board with Teichhaus. Ahead of him is Andre. Ahead of Andre, hidden is Calvé. You can just see the rear of the Freightliner peeking into shot. They run wide there, coming out of turn 4. Track limits there, unpoliceable. Down to the hairpin now. Brake hard. This is turn 5. Turn into the hairpin. Calvé looks as though he's got a little bit wide, but Andre not able to dart up the inside. You can't be quite as instinctive in a racing truck with all the weight and the relative lack of speed as you can in a single-seater race car, for example, or a car, certainly. So you do have to plan a little bit ahead, and that's why it's essential to try and rattle a mistake out of the guy ahead of you, and that is exactly what Andre is trying to do. But Calvé, for the moment, fending him off, defending nicely. Look here as they come down to the Ad Van Bogen. Teichhaus is behind them still. Look back from Teichhaus. What do to fend off this challenge of Andre, who looks like he's got the speed. Yet got, though, is a gap. Through the chicane, they turn up towards turn 16. Another lap about to go to the book as Andre brakes hard. The leaders are already through. And now Norbert Kish is away and gone by over 2 seconds. He is stroking it home over Lucas Hahn. And again, maybe this is Norbert Kish just being careful early on to preserve the tyres, others using them a bit harder. And maybe that's why Calvé is striking as well. Perhaps Jonathan Andre has looked after the rubber a bit better, and that's why he's able to take the battle to the Freightliner. Freightliner most recent title in the real world, the European title won by Adam Lachko. There goes Andre. And Bjorn Teichhaus still on his tail as they come up through the Mercedes arena once more. Now, Norbert Kish under investigation for limits. He's had a warning, and now he is under investigation. So Norbert Kish, the race leader, is being investigated for track limits. This starts to get really ticklish now. Calvé, Andre, Teichhaus. They run 6, 7 and 8 as they get sideways onto the power coming out of turn 4. But race control having a look at what Norbert is up to. Might come to nothing, might come to something. Let's see. As the game, Calvé goes wide and Andre gets into the back of him, and there was contact that opens up the door. They rub again, and there he gets turned sideways, and off the road he goes into the barrier. And Tiehouse, with the momentum, is up alongside Andre. He's ahead of Andre as they flick through the shot. Calvé rejoins. Something's going to be done about that, I would have thought. And Bjorn Tiehouse then now goes up 2 places. He read that beautifully. He saw what was coming at the hairpin. Have a look at the replay on the inset box. You see Tiehouse now 6th, Andre still 7th. But there, Calvé went a bit deep into the hairpin. Andre got into the back of him as he braked later. But there, another rub, and that just turned Theo Calvé across the front of Jonathan Andre, who backed out of it. And that's how Tiehouse got the run on him. But I would imagine that that's going to be looked at by race control. So, incident between numbers 66, Jonathan Andre, and of course 20, Theo Calvé. The 2 French drivers. Let's see what comes of it. In the meantime, we've got a minute and change on the clock. Norbert Kish leads on the road from Lucas Hahn and Manuel Alvarez. Get another bleep to tell me now that 66 is under investigation. And also, actually, 51 Bjorn Tiehouse is under investigation. So, Theo Calvé not under investigation, but Andre certainly is for that incident. Not surprisingly, as Kish wriggles his way out of the arena. Hahn behind him. Should hit 0 on this lap, so there'll be 1 more to run at the end of it as Norbert Kish comes down through the hairpin now. So there is Norbert Kish, looking good up front. Clock continues to tick on down. Whether or not Tiehouse was looked at because it was felt he got past under a yellow flag, well, there wasn't a lot he could do about that, was there? Andre was slow and Calvé was spinning, but he went for it. But he certainly didn't make contact with Calvé. And I don't think he got into the back of Andre to trigger it all, but might need another look at it. There he is anyway, he's in 6th. The only consolation for Theo Calvé is he's on pole position now for race 2. And Norbert Kish, he's given a 2nd warning for track limits. So he's been looked at, and 2 warnings then for Kish. Might get a chance to ask him about that at the end of this race. And number 51, Bjorn Tiehouse, has to give back his position to Jonathan Andre. So there it is. There's the switcheroo. But Jonathan Andre, well, that's very lucky for him, isn't it, really? Because he was the aggressor, and Bjorn Tiehouse got ahead of him. But Andre is allowed back ahead. And so Bjorn Tiehouse, therefore, is demoted to 7th, which is where he was a lap ago. Leader is on his last lap, and it goes Jonathan Andre into the top 6. Tiehouse will still start on the front row, so you could argue that he's actually benefited ever so slightly from all of that, because rather than being 6th and on row 2, he's going to be 7th and on the front row of the grid. Race leaders then go out through the arena down to the hair. Norbert Kish is the race leader, and he is away and gone. There is Theo Calvé, very miffed, I would have thought, to be only 8th. 9th there is Pedro Marco, and in 10th place behind him is Ivan Rodriguez, as they now come into the Mercedes arena. Good battle this, but it's for, if you like, the worst place of all. It is for the first outside the reverse grid. 9th is just where you don't want to be. No argument about it. Marco opens the door wide. Ivan Rodriguez tries to get a cheeky look at the inside line as they go through the arena once again. And now Theo Calvé being warned about track limits. But after the race he's had, that's probably the least of his dramas. Through goes Marco. There is Norbert Kish, though, who is on target for a 2nd victory of the season, seemingly. He makes the run then now up towards the exit of the chicane, towards there, the turn 16 right-hander. And so it is going to be another win for Norbert Kish. He gets it all sideways on the run up to the line. Lucas Hahn sideways for 2nd, but Norbert Kish wins for the 2nd time this year. Lucas Hahn takes 2nd, and 3rd there, Manuel Alvarez is through. Sasha Lentz bags 4th place. 5th goes the way of Jose Villa. And then 6th is Jonathan Andre. The rest will come through. But Norbert Kish it is then that takes the race honours. And a really good effort indeed for Norbert Kish then. Controlled things beautifully from the front. And the rest of the field charged through behind with Sasha Lentz 4th, Jose Villa 5th, 6th goes the way of Jonathan Andre, 7th Bjorn Tiehouse, 8th Theo Calvé then, that's your reverse grid dump. and incident reports have just about 8 minutes or so before they need to be submitted. So if a driver feels as though they've been turned around, rather, then they've got a little bit of time to file an incident report and talk to race control. Number 94 is under investigation now, I understand, that being Ivan Rodriguez. So it's all happening for them in race control. Let's just confirm the result then. Norbert Kish, the race winner from Lucas Hahn and Manuel Alvarez. Fourth, Sasha Lentz ahead of Jose Villa and then Jonathan Andre with Bjorn Tyhouse and Theo Calve rounding out the top 8 for the reverse grid. Ninth, Pedro Marco ahead of Ivan Rodriguez. 11th, Henry Tyhouse ahead of Antonio Albacete and Lucas Rival. Stephan Kirsch, 14th in his first race in the championship ahead of Ferry van Drunen. And the one that was lapped did get to the end, yes, just gone through shot there. Look, number 19, Marco Klingelhofer. So the drivers complete their lap round to the pit lane, and Norbert Kish then as the race winner, finishing in second place, Lucas Hahn and Manuel Alvarez taking third. Very similar, like absolutely identical to what we had within the first race at the Hungaroring, with Sasha Lentz coming home in fourth, as in race 1 at the Hungaroring, Jose Villa 5th, and 6th, Jonathan Andre, exactly the same. Bjorn Tyhouse was 7th, was it? Yes, it was. So the top 7, an absolute carbon copy of the equivalent race at the Hungaroring going back a couple of weeks. So, well done, Norbert Kish. The drivers then for the podium, Manuel Alvarez taking third place. Second, Lucas Hahn, and the race winner is Norbert Kish, who has done it again, and this time by a very impressive margin of 3.7 seconds at the end of the race. Norbert, well done. How tough a race was that?
Thank you. Well, it was tough. Lucas was really, really fast, and in the first couple of laps, he was really, really close to me. So yeah, I had to be careful, and not to make mistakes. And yeah, I got some warning for track limits. So yeah, in the second half of the race, I had to watch not to cross the line anywhere so that I don't get a penalty. So yeah, it was difficult.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about these track limit investigations, because that's not like you. We don't normally see you under investigation. But was that just the way you were driving, or was it the pressure coming from Lucas behind you? You were pushing on that bit more.
I'm not too sure, because I just wanted to ask the race control that where did I make it, because I don't really know, because all except one, I had the third lap is illegal in the game. That's where I had one off track, but the rest of the laps is all clear with the game. So yeah, I'm not sure which turn was it. So I gotta ask about it.
Okay. Now, you said to me after the races at the Hungaroring how this year, with the adjustments to the Assetto Corsa platform, the weight of the truck is being taken into account a lot more, and you're having to look after the tyres. Was that happening again during that race?
Oh yeah, and this circuit is even more difficult or even more hard on the tires than the Hungaroring was, actually, because the front tires are just eaten up. They are red and overheating. After one quick lap, and in the second and third lap you already slow down. And I'm now just looking at the lap times. We are slowing down more than 1 second compared to the first to the last lap of the race. So yeah, it's difficult to keep them in order, and it's nice because the real life is just like this. You have to manage your tires a little bit, so it's good.
Right, now you've got to do it from 8th on the grid, so this is going to be a tough second race, as ever.
Yeah, it's. I think you saw the first start. How chaotic can it be? So yeah, I gotta be careful, stay out of trouble and see if we can overtake some people and come up and score a little bit more points than my rivals in the championship. That's what matters. This is what I have to watch out for the championship overall, because now it's much more difficult in the second race. It's really hard to overtake. The field is really, really tight. So can't really go to win the reverse grid race like last season. Maybe I could, but yeah, I have to be careful, more careful now.
Where on the track do you need to be from 8th on the grid into the Mercedes arena, turn 1? Do you need to be on the outside to try and get the line for that long left, or do you need to be on the inside and got people coming up the inside?
You never know, because sometimes people do crowd up on the inside and slow down a lot, and then you can lose some positions. People going on the outside, but the outside is also very risky, because if there's a crash or something on the inside, then you will be taken out outside. So it's difficult, but we will see how the start goes, how the braking is at the first turn, how brave everybody is. See if there's a crash, and then. Actually, you kind of have to decide in the second half of your braking zone up to the one, what can you do. So, yeah, I think I try to be safe.
Makes sense to me. Norbert, well done. Congratulations. Well done on the race 1 win. Congratulations to Norbert Kish. He's done it again. A second win of the year. Now we're getting news of penalties. A 5-second penalty has been given to Ivan Rodriguez, a 10-second penalty to Jonathan Andre. We'll see what that does to the results in a little while. But first of all, let's have a quick word with Lucas Hahn, a second place. Lucas, well done. Tough race staying with Norbert there.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really tough race. I can follow him a long time. And he looked a lot of times in the mirror, I think. And in the second race, I will be fast, and I will let him behind me.
Now the gap opened up a bit. You were with him to start with, and then you fell away. Was that down to the tyres, or were you just being safe and taking points for second place?
Yeah, the tires are lose their performance, and I have to slow down to hold the position.
Well, it was a good drive. Well done. Second place. Good luck for the reverse grid race.
Thank you. See you. Lucas
Hahn then takes second place, and third, Manuel Alvarez. As I say, we've got these 2 penalties. I don't actually think, with some very crude maths, as I've been talking to Lucas Hahn there, that they will change things too much. I think 10 seconds actually still only costs Jonathan Andre 1 place, and actually I think 5 seconds will only cost Ivan Rodriguez 1 place. He should still be ahead of Antonio Albacete, but we'll await confirmation of that. So Norbert Kish does it again from pole position. Gosh, what a surprise. But he did have to work pretty hard in those opening few laps of the race. And of course, he's now going to do it from 8th. And it's going to be very interesting indeed to see what happens with a tougher entry. The reverse grid race 2 is coming up very shortly. Race control will sift through all of the work. The drivers will get a swig of drink and reconnect to the server. And we will look forward to race 2, the other side of this break.
At Goodyear, we understand the challenges of business. Your fleet is out on the road working hard, and you need tyres you can rely on. Tyres that are more innovative, more advanced, more versatile, and most importantly, better for business. Introducing the new K-Max and FuelMax Gen 2 range. K-Max Gen 2. Superb mileage, optimal fuel efficiency, and better all-weather capability. Excellent mileage levels, significantly improved traction throughout the tyre life. And FuelMax Gen 2. Exceptional fuel efficiency, increased mileage, and better all-weather capability. Excellent fuel efficiency, significantly improved all-weather capability. Gen 2. More innovative, more advanced, better for business. Welcome to the next generation. The new K-Max and FuelMax Gen 2 range from Goodyear.
At home in Germany, on the go in the world. Every year, up to 20,000 vehicles drive from our depot in the Swabian town of Burtenbach out into the world.
Novum is our new fully revised trailer concept. Novum not only introduced the new external frames and body, but also the new optimally designed Kugel modular system with optimized uniform new modulus assemblies and components.
In the category concept, first place was awarded to Burtenbach.
Google's innovative novel generation trailers have been awarded the International Industry Prize Trailer Innovation 2019 in the Supreme Discipline Concept at IAA Commercial Vehicles.
Our mission is to move your freight, thereby making our safely and efficiently. Today, tomorrow, always.
Welcome back. We are getting ready for race 2 here at the Nürburgring. A rather dramatic end to race 1 with is rather affecting the output. I know one or two of you on Twitter are saying that the stream doesn't flow. Well, apologies. Blame the weather for all of this. It's not helping life. However, we are just about ready to go racing because as the drivers have reconnected to the server, we have the pace truck getting ready. But of course, before all of that, the circuit, just like in the real world, it's the same in the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. The road is given over to the official truck, the Ford F-Max. And that is set for its lap around the circuit. And so let's finally cross trackside. So looking down onto the Theo Calvé, who was a winner here last year in the reverse grid race. He's going to start on pole position. So can he, despite an incident in the first race when he got turned sideways by Jonathan Andre, can he come out on top? Well, first thing to bear in mind is that it's going to be Jonathan Andre up with him at the front of the grid. So a continuation of that battle is set to rage on, I suspect. Bjorn Tiehaus, Jose Villa on the second row. And Villa, of course, was the winner of the equivalent race at the Hungaroring. So once again, you've got another driver up there who is well worth keeping an eye to. What about Manuel Alvarez, third and second at Hungaroring, third here already? Pretty much anybody actually in that bait could be on pure pace a winner, but as Norbert Kish has been telling us, you've got to keep out of up from 8th. But outside the top 8, Antonio Albacete for 10th. Not really sure how much progress Antonio made because he's still not really at 1 really with the sim racing concept, but he is quick and getting better all the time. Ivan Rodriguez may be penalised in race 1, but he too is somebody that does have sim experience and I suspect could be able to challenge his way through the pack, but he's got to keep out of trouble, and that's going to be key to all of this as we are set to go racing. Lights are there. Remember, it is 25 minutes to include the pace lap, and that is what we are about to have underway now as the Iveco pace truck blasts away. Calvé and Andre on the front row. There you've got Tiehaus and Villa on the second row. Sasha Lentz and Manuel Alvarez on row 3, Lucas Hahn and then Norbert Kish through the Mercedes arena. Now, just checking that Sasha Lentz is there, because as they went from the grid, I wasn't convinced I'd Sasha, and I don't think he's in the server, is he? He's not there for some reason. So goes around also a red flag. Red flag from race control, not surprising after what we had earlier on. That's great news for Sasha Lentz. So the drivers disconnect, they'll reconnect, and we'll go again. So yet another red flag, and I think we got further this time. It was at turn 1 rather than on the start straight, but the red flag shown to go again. Here's the replay. So let's try and piece it all together. Look, Calvé got sideways with a little bit of help, I suspect, but in the background, look, 15, Henry Tiehaus gets all crossed up. But Calvé sideways, others went wide in avoidance, some couldn't avoid, got into the mix, and so the red flag is shown once again for the second race in a row here at the Nürburgring. The drivers have to make their way back towards the grid, effectively disconnect and reconnect to the server. This might just help Sasha Lentz, who he was put to the back. The reason, therefore, that he appeared as 4th on the grid for race 1 was fine, but he had to reconnect to the server, and that's why he ended up in the pit lane, but was back on the grid for race 1. Hopefully, now he's going to be there for race 2, but race control will be making sure he is able to connect. And I'm just looking at some of the messages coming up from race control. The server is now ready to join. The green flag lap will be in just under 5 minutes' time. So won't be long before we can get things back underway, hopefully, with the full complement of trucks once again. Theo Calvé then looked as though he'd made the of those starts on the run down towards the first corner, but getting a little bit sideways under braking. And that, of course, rather triggered all of the mayhem behind. The start of that race is being looked at by race control, according to the most recent message coming through on TeamSpeak. So that is being looked at by race control. It may just be put down to being one of those things. It may be that somebody is deemed to be at fault for causing the incident. Theo Calvé looked as though it was him getting sideways that maybe triggered some of it, but we'd already had Henry Tiehaus in the mid getting sideways under braking, and the net result, trucks all over the road. And Rolf Werner, the race director, shouts for the red flag. The teams are notified on the TeamSpeak system, and so the race is stopped and they go again. We'll try once more to get race 2 underway, and the drivers will again, I suspect, be told about their behaviour, and fingers crossed it won't be long before we can go back racing, because it is just 6 minutes past the hour. The formation lap is due to start at 10 minutes past, and 25 minutes plus 1 lap. Good to go again. So a reminder that it is Theo Calvé and Jonathan Andre on that all-French front row. They tangled in the opening race, and for that, Jonathan Andre got a penalty. It was a 10-second penalty, but it only cost him 1 place because Calvé had lost so much time. Jonathan Andre was only dropped from 6th to 7th, So he's on the front row of the grid. So admittedly, he loses a place and he loses points, but he does gain because now he is at the front of the grid. Calvé for pole, Andre for second. Bjorn Teichhaus had a good battle with them, but was forced to give back a place he'd won away from Andre in race one. He's going to start third. And then Jose Villa will start fourth on the grid on the outside of the second row. And remember, that's the guy that won the equivalent race at the Hungaroring just a fortnight ago. So can Villa do it again? He is well placed, certainly. And if he can gain places through the Mercedes arena while others are squabbling and getting into strife, maybe getting delayed in battles, well, that might certainly help for the Spanish driver to try and, just like Norbert Kish, take a second victory of the season. Third row of the grid. What about Sascha Lenz? Is he going to be there? That's the next question. We're awaiting news from race control as to whether Sascha is going to be on the grid. But for the moment, it's planned that he's going to be fifth. Sixth will be Manuel Alvarez with that third and second and third as his race results of the season. Then you've got Lucas Hahn and Norbert Kish lining up on the fourth row of the grid. And Lucas Hahn, we know, has got the pace. He's got nowhere near as much experience of all of this as has Norbert Kish, but he's getting faster and faster all the time. 2 minutes then to the restart of the race. Those top 8 in the reversal of where they finished the opening race here at the Nürburgring. And so now drivers reconnecting to the server, which is open. It's ready to join. And as soon as possible, then we will be back in business for our second race. Just a quick check into the race control. Oh, that's welcoming everybody. The last message from race control was that the start of that race under investigation. There is the grid. So we are formed. We are ready to go pretty much. And the last minute or so counts down here at the Nürburgring. It'll still be 25 minutes, not like the trucks have to refuel. So and we're not necessarily on a view of the circuit either. So they get the full race duration in once more, despite red flag. So when the lights come up on the screen, we'll know that that is the final few seconds before the formation lap is due to get underway. And do I espy a Sascha Lenz truck? I think I do this time. So I reckon that, again, Sascha has been given a get-out-of-jail-free card here. He's able to connect and therefore able to go racing. Championship coming into this event. Oh, things have changed a little bit after race one, but it was Norbert Kish 2 points up on Jose Villa and 1 point in turn. Villa up on Alvarez. Hahn 4th, Lenz 5th, Andre 6th as the lights go out any second to get the formation lap out underway. Alba 37th, Bjorn Teichhaus, Theo Calvé, Henry Teichhaus, Pedro Marco, the top 10. Only 10 scorers across those 2 races in Hungary. Championship situation will shuffle, of course, accordingly after the second race here, but right now Norbert Kish building the title race. So we do indeed have Lenz. He's good to go. And down towards the Mercedes arena, he's on the grid. 6th it is, Manuel Alvarez. There is Theo Calvé then in the Freightliner. Make the point again. He won the reverse. Coming, good getaway out down towards the Mercedes arena. And so Theo Calvé it is, holding sway. Comes into the Mercedes arena, comes through, runs wide, pitches lag, and there is the answer. So we have Theo Calvé off the road, Jose Villa off the road, just for not being able to see what was going on because of the weather conditions affecting the stream, affecting the lag in the pictures. So it has all shuffled around so that Alvarez is now the race leader. Behind him is Lenz, but Lenz goes off the road as well. And out of all of that, there's more drama coming out of the Mercedes arena. So Alvarez leads the way. Jonathan Andre is second. So here they come towards us. And out of all of that, Alvarez leads. Andre is second. The rest of the pack streams through then with they're being forced out wide. Antonio Albacete, he gets it back onto the road and he's going to be close to making contact with Bjorn Teichhaus out of all of that. So Norbert Kish battles his way through. There he goes in number 1. There's more strife in the background as others get sideways. Kish has got work to do, that is for sure. But the real losers out of all of that, Theo Calvé, and also, of course, Calvé's got involved in another incident in the background. Look, so too Jose Villa. There's Norbert Kish going through the chicane at the end of lap 1. A proper racing, therefore, and he's going to be Manuel Alvarez who leads the way. Here they come. Andre behind in second place. Lucas Hahn is third, up towards the timing line. So the first pucker racing lap in the book. Alvarez leading. In second place going through is Jonathan penalty. So Norbert Kish, who's about to dive bomb him on the road anyway on the inside line, is also going to be ahead on corrected times anyhow. Then you've got 51 on Tie House going through, and all 16 are still circulating, but Calvé has got a huge amount of work to do because he is down in 14th place. And out of all of that, what happened to Jose Villa? He was 8th, so he was delayed, but not as badly as others as they come now out of turn 4. So Lucas Hahn closing up the back of Jonathan Andre. There they are for second is Hahn. But Alvarez is looking good up front then. Andre runs second at the moment. In third is Hahn. And the battle is on for second place, which will allow Alvarez, I suspect, to get away. The margin is increasing between the top two as the Spanish driver accelerates down through the exit of the Bilstein curve up towards the Ad van Bogen and then on towards the chicane. Now there, Hahn, being stuck behind Jonathan Andre, wants to get on with this before Sascha Lentz catches him, and Lentz is taking Kish with him. Up towards the chicane they come. Jonathan Andre able to keep the line, and the softer version of the chicane like that is harder to overtake. Less stop-start, there's less opportunity to get through under braking. So through they turn, and now onto the pit straight, whereas it is who leads the way. So as the leaders go by, Lucas Hahn comes up to the inside line there, thinks about making a move against Jonathan Andre. Is he going to be able to get through? Not there, he's not, so has to switch sides. There's a good fight going on for fourth place as well. Lentz is still keeping Kish at bay. And then sixth on the road is Pedro Marco. The penalty to be applied post-race. As wide goes Andre. Hahn tries to get up on the outside line there, going around the arena. Alvarez needs to push on and try and build that lead as there. Lucas Hahn gets run out wide all over the curb. He turns then out of the arena. And as the drivers battle on, they make one towards the hairpin. What progress for Calvé? Limited, I'm afraid, 14th. So apologies with the delay on the stream. We weren't able to see exactly what happened on the opening corner, but the net result was that Calvé was certainly in strife and ended up off the road and down to last place, possibly with a push, possibly his own doing. And the opening lap is under investigation. Right now, though, Hahn is the man to watch. If he can get past Andre, he's got a real chance of going after Alvarez. Of course, he was quicker than in the opening race. But French driver Jonathan Andre, for the moment, is keeping Hahn at bay, and that means that Lentz and Kish ought to be able to close. Through goes Lentz. Up to the chicane. Turn their way through that, as I say, softer motorbike version of it. And onto the power briefly up towards turn 16. The Nordschleife to their left as they loop through that hairpin effectively and onto the pit straight once again. Now the opening race for the others, based on, of course, their Superpole order, was a 14-lapper, and Manuel Alvarez comes through now, 4 laps done. Now towards the Mercedes arena once again. This is where Hahn is close and uses a little bit of curb to set up the truck as he goes into the corner, but he just can't do anything about Jonathan Andre. He's got to try and force an error out of Andre, but equally Hahn can't afford to sit there because A, Alvarez is getting away, and secondly, it means that Lentz and Kish have an opportunity to close as well. Hahn doesn't want to stress the tyres too much, whereas Alvarez up front is being able to pick his lines. He doesn't have to defend, he doesn't have to drive aggressively, he can look after the machinery here. Hahn with the tail wagging comes out of turn 4, makes the run now then down into the hairpin, brakes hard. And Kish going a little bit deeper on the opening lap of the race as he's on the tail of Lentz now as they turn their way through. Sascha Lentz accelerate through the approach now to the Bilstein curve. Got Norbert Kish right up behind him, and then 6th is the Hungaroring Race 2 winner, Jose Villa. He was delayed also on the race in the Calvé clash, managed to regroup pretty well from that. So there is Lentz, who is not really closing on Hahn at all, is he? Kish for the moment can't find a way past him. Now, are these, as two experienced drivers, biding their time, waiting to see what happens, looking after the rubber, or are they genuinely struggling for pace relative to the top three? Out of the chicane they turn once again. Last time around, Alvarez led 2 seconds over the line. There's the fight for fourth. Lentz versus Kish together past the pits. And going defensive now, Jonathan Andre, as he thinks about having to fend off this challenge of Lucas Hahn once again, all of which plays right into the hands of Manuel Alvarez. To the inside line goes Hahn. He's got a gap as he got the move done this time. Let's see. Nose to tail for fourth are Lentz and Kish, but we need to see whether Hahn is second. He's briefly second, but Jonathan Andre has got the inside line. Lucas Hahn loops around the outside of him, and has he done it? I think he has. Lucas Hahn up into second place, runs it out wide over the curb. Lentz fourth, Kish is still fifth, Villa is sixth. Good driving by Hahn, there he is, comes out of turn 4, and that puts him now up into second spot. The inside line looks Jonathan Andre to try and retake the place. Lucas Hahn needs to get away now as Kish goes ahead of Lentz in the hairpin. Through on the inside line to fourth place. Norbert Kish goes by. Right, this now is looking a little bit for Kish. However, that leading gap has gone up markedly while we've had that squabble going on for second and third places. So Hahn has somehow now got to get the hammer down and get away from Andre. But Norbert Kish, clear of Lentz, is working his way forward all the time. 13 minutes plus the regulation lap go. Jose Villa there trying to play chap as well. Theo Calvé 13th, very frustrated as through the chicane goes Hahn. Right, now that he's got clear road ahead of him, let's see what he can do. Mindful that Norbert Kish is chipping his way forward all the time. There's a sideways Lentz in the background as well coming out of the chicane. Towards the line once more, the Sven Walter Logistic backed Iveco in the hands of Lucas Hahn. Remember what you see them driving, the total equivalent of their real world number, colours, sponsors, everything. To the inside line, Norbert Kish looks for third place. Is he going to be able to line up a move? Not there, he's not. Jonathan Andre covers him off down towards the Mercedes arena. Lentz is still in touch as well. And then in sixth place, you've got Jose Villa next in the queue with seventh Bjorn Tiehaus, and eighth on the road is Pedro Marco. But remember, when you add the 5 minutes to his time, forget it. He's going to be about 2 laps down. Same for Rodriguez and Rival. So actually, those 3 penalised drivers all ahead of Calvé, so he's going to get into the top 10, courtesy of the penalties. We're about roughly halfway, aren't we, on the time, as their Andre versus Kish comes down now towards the hairpin, still being pursued by Sascha Lentz. Lentz trying to get back into the mix. If anything, I just wonder whether Villa might not be getting closer to Lentz than Lentz is staying with Kish. So a pair for third, a pair for fifth could be how we look. What about the lead gap? It was 4.5 seconds last time around. So that's what Alvarez to Hahn we need to monitor. 4.5 last time over the timing line. Can Lucas Hahn, third generation truck racer, do anything about the race leader? 11 minutes a lap to go. We are currently working lap number 7, and up towards the chicane once more goes the charging Manuel Alvarez, new to our championship for this year and looking really impressive indeed. Third, second, third, and now a race lead, but Hahn is chasing after him. Andre hangs on to third. Kish is fourth. 94 is under investigation. That is Rodriguez. So he's already got a 5-minute penalty. Now he's being investigated again. When it's not your day, not your day. Leaders go through, over the line, and now Kish lines up to have a go on the inside of Jonathan Andre. He's made that move start pretty early. He should have a gap, but is he going to be late enough on the brakes? If he does go through, it's going to be bad news for Hahn. He does go through, and Jonathan Andre really powerless there to defend. So Norbert Kish goes through on the inside, up into third place now, and the pace that he's got does suggest that he's going to be storming up behind Hahn before much longer. Another one being investigated. According to race control, is 21. We do not have a 21, so more research needed. might be number 51, which is Tiehaus, but as the leaders go by, Andre trying to come back at Kish, but just like Sasha Lentz tried and failed, I fear the French driver is going to be similarly unfortunate. Down to the hairpin. So Alvarez leading, and the gap was down from 4.5 to 3.9 seconds last time around, but it's Kish storming along behind Hahn that we also need to keep an eye to. A drive through for Rodriguez for Ching, and the other one under investigation is 12 Rival. So a drive through now for Rodriguez. Through goes Jonathan Andre. That drive through on top of Rodriguez, 5-minute penalty as Jonathan Andre now will come under attack, I reckon, from Lentz, who is taking Villa with him. Up front still, the margin 3.9 seconds. Has Alvarez got enough in hand with 10 minutes plus a lap to go? To the end of lap 8 they come now. Over the timing line goes Alvarez, who's Hahn. 3.9 seconds it was. Is it down further? And what about the pace of Norbert Kish? Kish, incidentally, and you won't be surprised to learn, got the fastest lap also in that opening race to go with his pole, to go with his race win. Another triple whammy for the Hungarian driver. There he is, third on the road here. And as the leaders went by, the margin was down slightly, but not by very much. So, yeah, Hahn is closing. Time became 3.8 over the timing line and 3.7 into the braking zone. Theo Calve is now in 9th with Stephan Kirsch 10th, the newcomer. 11th behind them is Albacete. Henry Tiehaus is 12th. Klingelhofer is 13th. Rodriguez is 14th. And Rival is 15th on the road. Marco is 8th ahead of all of them from that second wave. But don't forget, he's got a 5-minute penalty to factor in as well. There goes Lentz into the hair. Now he's on the tail of Andre. He's taking Villa with him, and this is Jose Villa's view as he accelerates up now towards the S's. Into turn 11, first of all. Go left. Rides out over the curb. Moves across the road, lines up the apex. Touch of understeer, but he gets it turned in eventually. Of course, all of that weight. Very difficult to dart from one side of the road to the other like you could in a racing car. The weight balance of a racing truck today is far more stable than ever it was in the very early days in the mid-80s when the trucks were far more standard. We had there, I thought, Jonathan Andre on the grass and possibly disconnecting, but he is still running. He is still there ahead of Lentz through the chicane. And now, having had a drive, Rodriguez is under investigation for cutting the pit exit white line. Just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it? Almost everything in the book is being thrown at him here. So he's done his drive-through. Calve has had a coming together with Rival, which is possibly why Lucas Rival is investigation. The French drivers are all tangling with one another over the day, aren't they? And Calve having crossed swords with Andre in race 1, now clashing with Rival in race 2. Meantime, 6.5 on the clock, plus a regulation lap. And you're riding with Villa, who's on the back of Lentz, who's getting ever closer to the tail of Andre. And again, Andre goes straight on, and that I think is a disconnect from the server. So up to 4th goes Lentz, up to 5th goes Villa. Yep, Tiehaus into 6th place, and we have a 5-second penalty now being given to Henry Tiehaus for an unsafe rejoin. So race control are being kept very busy indeed. You're on board here with number 51 of Bjorn Tiehaus. But a 5-second penalty to number 15, Henry, for an unsafe rejoin. And as I say, I fear Jonathan Andre has left the server. Another drive-through penalty for cutting the white line for Rodriguez, who's got 2 drive-throughs now. And a 5-second penalty to number 15, which is Henry Tiehaus. I hope you're making notes of all of this. Questions will be asked at the end, because at the moment, very few in the midfield and back do not have a penalty hanging over them. Alvarez, in the meantime, though, leads the way. 3.6 seconds ahead he was. He's now got up to 4.1 over Lucas Hahn. So Lucas is just not being able to bring down that gap as Bjorn Tiehaus wrestles the rig there through the end of the lap. Jose Villa goes through as well. Villa fighting his MAN as he comes past the pits. Right, Alvarez leading for 4 seconds clear with just under 5 minutes the race time to go, plus the lap. Turning their way down towards the braking zone at turn 1. Jose Villa chasing after Lentz, but he's not close enough, is he, to think about making a move. And Jonathan Andre being shown now as 7th, as though he's been able to get himself back into the game. Let's have a look. I think he is still running behind Bjorn Tyhouse. They will keep an eye on the background, but it did look as though he'd disconnected briefly or had an internet problem. He's back there on the tail of Tyhouse, trying to fight back if he can. Clock ticks on down, 4 and change on the clock. Theo Calve up to 9th on the road. He's got to get past Pedro Marco, but equally, of course, Marco penalised 5 minutes. Race control has had a busy old evening, and everybody having to cope with the weather conditions. It's odd, isn't it? We're talking about virtual racing, but real world weather is affecting things for the connection, for the output, for the stream, for everything. So the drivers, if they've got a good internet connection, are okay. But from the production point of view, from race control's point of view, from TV's point of view, the weather affecting internet connections, doing us no favours whatsoever, as the leaders then go up towards the and look at Hahn and Kish. They have now got themselves together for 2nd and 3rd places. 3.5 minutes to go, and Kish could get 2nd, but is he going to be too far back? Even if he does get past Lucas Hahn to go after Alvarez, it's going to be touched, and here they come then. It's game on for 2nd place. Up towards the line they come. Past the pits goes Alvarez. Last time he was 4 seconds clear. Let's see what the margin is this time around over Lucas Hahn. It is over 4 seconds. That should be enough, I would have thought. Norbert Kish is 3rd, and Kish now has got good pace. So Kish has the speed. Race 1 winner. Let's see what he can do here. Didn't get himself into the 3 in the equivalent race at the Hungaroring, so looking good championship-wise with a win and potentially a podium in race 2 as Hahn goes a little bit deep round 3. Norbert Kish tries to get up alongside him but can't do it there. They blast their way down towards the hairpin now. 2 minutes and counting on the clock, 2 minutes and change into the hairpin. Brake hard, turn right, there is Kish. The road just falls downhill a little bit. Rejoin the Grand Prix circuit, come out the other side, and a battle for 2nd place is exactly what Alvarez needs here. It will delay the 2 drivers involved. It will enable him to get away. So through they turn. Norbert Kish on the back of Lucas Hahn as they power their way uphill. Alvarez on Kish, that is the top 3. Now, is the arrival of Kish onto the tail of Hahn going to spur him on? Is he going to be able to wring a bit more pace out of the 2nd place truck in order to try and get away from Kish, or is he going to be losing time in the Iveco because he's having to defend? Right now, he's defending like crazy, isn't he? The MAN glued to the back of him. Kish 3rd, Hahn 2nd, up towards the line. Through they turn. Past the pits, down towards 1. The clock will hit 0 on this lap, so we've got 2 more laps to go. 1 in the time, then the regulation lap. And Alvarez looking at that margin, 3.9 seconds as they went over the line. It's down a fraction, but it still should be enough for the Spanish driver to replicate what his fellow countryman Jose Villa did in the equivalent race at the Hungaroring. Looking from Kish's MAN at the back of Hahn, then down to the hairpin. Brake hard, turn right. Hahn there, up the curb a little bit, which might just send him out wide, but he gets it tucked back into the corner. Rumbles his way out the other side, back onto the gas, onto the loud pedal. 1 more lap to the end of this. Manuel Alvarez looking as though the Mercedes driver is going to be a winner. Mercedes wins have been a bit few and far between, be it in digital or real world truck racing of late. It's the Mercedes that leads the way. It's the only example of three-pointed start on the grid, and it leads as Norbert Kish drops back a length there from Lucas Hahn. Mercedes, Iveco, MAN within the top three. Out of the chicane, Kish is on it. Is there an opportunity? Not here, there won't be, but he's been close to Hahn to make a move at turn one, and it's got to start now. Get the momentum. Keep up behind the Iveco. Over the line. One more lap to go. Over the line they come. So Kish, if he wants to have a go, it's going to have to be down on the inside line for turn one. We're on the last lap of the race. He's close, but not able to make a move on the inside line. Hahn hangs on in there. And Alvarez is still good, still clearing the race lead. This looking really, really promising now for the Spanish driver. Through they turn to the power once more through the arena. But Hahn's task now, forget going after the race leader. It's defend from Norbert Kish. Kish, we know he's quicker because he was able to run away in race one. So Lucas Hahn has got to make that go as wide as possible. Down to the hairpin. On his tail. Lentz rather distant in fourth place after a bit of a torrid evening in terms of internet and technicalities. Through goes the race leader. So Alvarez well clear up front. This is the fight for second place, playing into his hands all the while. Hahn versus Kish. Now through the Holstein curve they come, and the run downhill again. Making the run now up towards the chicane, out of which Manuel Alvarez will come. The checkered flag is going to be ready, and there is Manuel Alvarez, who has driven absolutely perfectly. Up towards the line he comes. Second is going to go the way of Lucas Hahn, seemingly, but Manuel Alvarez wins race 4 in the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. Second across the line is Lucas Hahn. Third is Norbert Kish. Fourth, Sasha Lentz. And then it's going to be Jose Villa, I reckon, for fifth. Sixth should be Bjorn Tiehaus. Across the line he goes. Jonathan Andre, seventh. And what about eighth on the road? Pedro Marco, it should be ahead of Theo Calve. But, of course, Marco is one of those drivers with a penalty, so we will of course have to have a amended result. But yes, he goes through, put him in brackets in a sense, because 5 minutes will drop him a couple of laps, that's for sure. Calve will be next through, 9th on the road, promoted to 8th ahead of Stephan Kirsch. Then Albacete goes through ahead of Henry Tiehaus, who's another penalised driver, ahead of Van Drunen, Rival, Klingelhofer, and after 2 drive-throughs and a 5 penalty, Ivan Rodriguez to round out the order. So, another lively race and a win for Manuel Alvarez. Let's try and have a very brief word before they go off and enjoy their evening doing other things with one or two of the drivers. With Manuel Alvarez, a non-English speaking Spanish winner, taking the plaudits. Great drive by him. And then for second and third, Lucas Hahn and Norbert Kish. And very quickly, I've been told Theo Calve gets a 5-second time penalty. Number 20, Theo Calve, has just been given a 5-second time penalty. So let us then see where that's going to drop him to in the fullness of the amended result. So we have Lucas Hahn and Norbert Kish, I think, ready to have a quick word. They'll be brought, hopefully, into our streaming channel in a moment. And Lucas getting himself ready. But a good evening for him. Another second place. So good, consistent pace for Lucas Hahn. But Manuel Alvarez, let's not take anything away from him as the race winner. Third, Norbert Kish. Second, Lucas Hahn. Manuel Alvarez takes the race win. Congratulations to him, but also Lucas Hahn, congratulations to you, another second place. But that looked like a difficult race, especially at the end with Norby right behind you.
Yeah, I stand under pressure, but I give my best, and that's the result, P2.
Was it tough to stay with Manuel at the start? He looked quick, but we kind of anticipated you would stay with him.
Yeah, he go away, then I was behind Jonathan Andre. Then I have to overtake him, and I can't close the gap to Manuel. It was too far away.
The Nürburgring, a circuit where you made your debut, your first races in the real world. Is it a tough circuit with the Mercedes arena, with that hairpin, with the heavy braking?
Yeah, it's a nice circuit, but it's also hard to, if you make a small if you make
mistake.
Yeah, a small mistake, you lose a lot of time. But it's a really nice track, and it's nice to drive on the Nürburgring.
Fantastic. Well done. A great result. 2 second places. Really good to see you going so well. Well done.
Thank you.
So Lucas Hahn then taking second place again, and Norbert Kish taking third position. Yet another podium, a win and a third. Not a bad evening's work, Norby.
Oh yeah, not bad. I mean, yeah, thank you. It could have been worse, you know. The first lap was really chaotic, you know. And, after the first couple of turns, it was looking good for me, but then I stuck a little bit. Then I had a big push from behind, so I went off track. Then I lose a couple of positions, and then had to come back from 6th or 5th position to 3rd. But you know, I guess it's okay. After that, there was some nice clean overtakes with Sasha and Andre and Jonathan Andre, and yeah, I was really close to Lucas in the end, but I just couldn't get close enough, and he didn't make any mistakes, so I had to settle for 3rd. But I guess it's good for the championship. I haven't made the calculation yet, but I hope it's good for the championship.
I'm sure it will be, and I was going to ask about the championship, because in these reverse grid races, where, as you said to me earlier, it's hard to get through this year with it being so much more competitive. Are you thinking points all the time? Are you thinking, well, yeah, let's just be careful, take the points, bank those points, and thinking championship?
Yeah, well, I have to think about the championship, you know, and look at the rivals and everything, because yeah, it's really close. I mean, after 2 races in the Hungaroring, I could only make 2 points of a gap, and you know, we can score 20, 15, 12, 10, things like that. So if you end up in a big lose a lot of positions, can't go to the podium, then you lose a lot of points. So it's really difficult. So you have to think about it when you are driving, so that how would you end up if you make some risk, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, it's difficult. It's not like the real one. In the real one, you know, we have the half points in the reverse grid race.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you win the first one, you don't really have too much in the second race. But here it's different, because you kind of have to risk, because you know, if somebody else risks and it's true for him, then maybe get a victory or a second place, and you end up maybe 6th or 7th, then you lose a lot of points. Maybe you lose even more points that you could make up in the first race. So it's really difficult to find the right balance of.
A very quick final thought, if you will, about our 2 reverse grid race winners. Jose Villa at the Hungaroring, Manuel Alvarez here. These 2 new Spanish guys, these new kids on the block, they're looking really good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. All of these guys are looking really, really, really fast. But yeah, so far I'm good, because you know, I could take the pole positions and take the first race victories, and then yeah, but they are really, really close. So it's difficult. They are really making my life much harder.
It's making it good for us to watch.
Yeah. It's good to watch, but yeah, don't practice so much, guys. Okay, just no need.
Norby, well done. Congratulations. A win and a third. Great racing. Well done.
Thank you very much.
So Norbert Kish takes third, Lucas Hahn takes second, and Manuel Alvarez then is our race 2 winner here at the Nürburgring. As I've been saying, penalties have been flying around. We had some issued almost pre-race, these 5-minute penalties, and then subsequent time penalties to the likes of Theo Calve. So, very provisionally, Manuel Alvarez the winner from Lucas Hahn and Norbert Kish. 4th, Sasha Lentz ahead of Jose Villa, and then 6th, Bjorn Teichhaus. Jonathan Andre 7th. 8th, Pedro Marco, but he gets 5 minutes of a penalty. Theo Calve benefits, but he gets 5 seconds. Then it's Stephan Kirsch ahead of Andrea Alberthetti, Henry Teichhaus, Ferry van Drunen, with Lucas Rival plus 5 minutes. Marco Klingelhofer next, and Ivan Rodriguez, 2 drive-throughs and a 5-minute penalty. I think he's probably long since disconnected and gone for a beer. It's not been his night, but well done, Manuel Alvarez. Norbert Kish, 2 race wins. It's now 1 each, Jose Villa and Manuel Alvarez. The 2 Spanish drivers both looking very impressive indeed with their arrival on the scene, as Norbert Kish says. Don't practice too much, guys, because they are giving the regulars a very tough time indeed. Now, the next stop on the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge calendar is going to be Le Mans. We will be at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time. The 21st of February is going to be the next race on the calendar. Then we have Jarama in early March, the 7th of March, with, of course, at the end of March, that shootout, if you like, between the 10 best sim and the 10 best real world drivers. So we'll do some computations in the meantime, have a look at the championship situation. But Norbert Kish, with 2 race wins, is looking so strong once again. But it's fascinating to see the arrival on the scene of Jose Villa and Manuel Alvarez giving him a really hard time. Alvarez looked good at the Hungaroring. He looked even better tonight. And of course, Lucas Hahn, who is getting on with this, racking up second places. He's got 3 of them now to his name. He may not be winning races, but he's banking points, and that could all be crucial. So, well done to Norbert Kish. Well done to Manuel Alvarez for their race wins tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time from a virtual Le Mans on the 21st of February. But for now, from the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge, it's goodbye.